So our second reading is from The Heart of Sufism by Hazrat Inayat Khan. There are three ways of seeking God in the human heart. The first way is to recognize the divine in everyone and be considerate towards every person with whom we are in contact, in thought, speech, and action. Human personality is very delicate. The more living the heart, the more sensitive it is. But that which causes sensitiveness is the love element in the heart, and love is God. The person whose heart is not sensitive is without feeling. His heart is not living, it is dead. In that case, the divine spirit is buried in his heart. A person who's always concerned with his own feelings is so absorbed in himself that he has no time to think of another. His whole attention is taken up with his own feelings. He pities himself, he worries, and he thinks about his own pain. And he's never open to sympathizing with others. He who takes notice of the feelings of another person with whom he comes into contact practices the first way of seeking God in the heart. The next way of practicing this is to think of the feelings of someone who's not with us at the moment. One may feel for those who are present, but one often neglects to feel for someone who's out of sight. One speaks well of someone to his face, but it's better to speak well of him when he's absent. One sympathizes with the trouble of someone who's with us at the moment, but it's often more praiseworthy to sympathize with someone who's far away. The third principle is to recognize one's own feeling, the feeling of God, to realize every impulse of love that rises in one's heart is a direction from God, to realize that love is a spark in one's heart, to blow that spark into a flame so that it may rise up and illuminate the path of one's life. So this is the fifth week in a series that I'm doing on a journey of awakening. It's a journey of Lent towards Easter. And if you haven't been here before, if you want to hear other episodes, you can look at the red card. That'll tell you how to get the other episodes. And the blue card, you can be on a mailing list, and you can just drop that in the plate or whatever at some other time. And just a bit of a recap. This journey, it's a time where during Lent we refine ourselves so as to be able to respond in the most appropriate way to the circumstance that we find ourselves in. To go on a journey of awakening that ends with the arrival of light in the resurrection that comes after the crucifixion. We're readying ourselves, giving ourselves the best possible chance to respond in a way that's guided by the heart, guided by the Spirit, rather than just guided by our minds. To prepare ourselves so that our promptings come from that Spirit and we've confidence in what we do, because we want our actions to bear fruit. And we're using Bible readings from the church lectionary, the readings that all the other churches are having all the way through Lent, and then we're going to balance those with readings from the other wisdom traditions, and that's why we had that reading from The Heart of Sufism. For me, that reading that Heather read today is about commonwealth. It's a famous story of the prodigal son. And the thing about the story is it's about all of us. We can identify with all the characters that appear in the story, where both the reactive sons, and we're also the forgiving father, and we're also the citizens who use others when they're vulnerable, the ones that took the son who had run out of all his money and made him go and look after the pigs. And we move through the characters and between the characters as we go through our life. It's a story of the best of us, and it's a story of the worst of us. We have the ability to act in different ways, and our challenge is to hold on to that and know that it is true for us, and it's true for everybody else as well, that everybody else can act in the best of ways and the worst of ways. And so when we act ourselves in self-interested ways, it's what we've done in the past, and it's also what we might do in the future. In all circumstances, our role is to have compassion and respect the liberty of others and to behave in a way that they would want us to behave towards them, of not rendering a final judgment on those that we think are taking the wrong road, but knowing that they're simply doing what they think is best for them and theirs. And there's always the possibility that there will be an understanding that will bring them back to their true selves. This is a story about how we treat each other and how we expect to be treated. We can be the forgiving father who lets the son go and then welcomes them back without judgment. We also the son who wants to go our own way, entitled, me and mine, wanting the freedom, then seeing his mistake and asking for forgiveness. And we're the citizens of the country who take advantage of the son when he's lost everything and send him out to look after the pigs. And we're the elder brother who says, what about me? I've been good, don't I get a fatted calf? In that second reasoning, Hazrat Inyat Khan identifies the different approaches in those three ways of seeking God. The first way is to recognize the divine in everyone. There is consideration of others through recognizing the divine within them, as opposed to just selfishly trying to get me and mine. We see that everyone within them wants for the good of all, but might be necessarily going their own way. And the next way of practicing religion is to think of the feelings of someone who's not immediately with us. And it's our awareness of all, not just of those right in front of us, but right across the communities, right across the world. We have to be aware of not just our own little bubble. And the third way is to recognize one's own feelings, the feelings of God, to realize that every impulse of love that rises in one's heart comes from that direction of God. And that last way is what we talked about last week, the awareness of God living through us. And it's in living this way, with that awareness of that divine within us, that we become the father of the story rather than the others who populate the land, the brothers and the citizens. Because our world is a world of brothers and citizens, a world where people want what is rightfully theirs, and where they want to have their own way, where they'll use people who are marginalized and vulnerable, and where there is envy for those who seem to be getting special treatment. Notice in the story of the prodigal son that most of the wealth is owned by the father, except for the pods and the pigs. Everything else comes from him. And the lesson is that all the bounty we have, everything we have in our lives, is given to us by that essence of life. And we are merely stewards of what we're given. We can claim ownership, but it's stewardship that's required. And that includes our stewardship of the wealth we experience that each of us has individually. It includes stewardship of the civilization that we are part of, that has been built up over centuries. We're the ones that are now stewards of the progress that's been made. We don't own it. We're stewards of that progress. And we're stewards of the planet that we've been given as a home. We're stewards of all of it. And our role is not to envy what others have, not to protect and take what we see as being ours and keep it for ourselves, but to live in those three ways, recognizing the divine in all, being aware of those who are living in a greater world and that we don't see every day, and seeing the promptings of our heart and acting out of those promptings. It is overall a state of generosity, to give others around us the freedom to be who they want to be, but to know that in the end, a greater vision and understanding can come about, though none of us know how long that vision will take to appear. And all the selfishness and the selfish action that comes out that people are doing is from a lack of understanding as to how the world actually works. It comes through a perception of separation. The prodigal son wanted to be separate himself. He wanted to go off and be his own person. The older brother saw himself as being separate, when in fact they were all of one family, with the wealth of the father being the commonwealth that supported them all. Our politics is a politics of separateness and comes from a lack of understanding of this commonwealth and of this duty we have to steward that commonwealth for the good of all, not just for the good of us. And like the prodigal son, it's moral poverty that will eventually bring back those who seek to take what they think is theirs and ignore the duty of common stewardship. With the son, it was his own poverty. He didn't have anything to eat. It's going to be moral poverty that is going to bring people back to the idea of common stewardship. We have to recognize this and not condemn, as the father in the story didn't condemn. We must see that everyone has that spark of the divine within them, and that spark will eventually bring them home, no matter how long it takes. And it will bring us home, no matter how many generations it takes. And we have to be patient about that. We have to recognize that really it's not up to us to sort it out. But it's up to us to do the work that's set before us. We can't solve the world's problems, but we can do the work that's set before us. That lovely quote from the Tao Te Ching. Fill your bowl to the brim and it will spill. Keep sharpening your knife and it will blunt. Chase after money and security and your heart will never unclench. Care about people's approval and you will be their prisoner. Do your work, then step back. The only path to serenity. Do your work, then step back. The only path to serenity. It really isn't up to us to make the world right. We just have to do the job that's set in front of each of us in our lives. For the father, the job was to let the son go. And then the job was to welcome him back and forgive him and to celebrate. Then it was to the older brother. The father had to let the older brother know that he was loved. Nothing more. That's all he did. Recognizing the divine in others, sympathizing with those who are afar, and being aware of the impulse of love that rises within our hearts as a direction from God. It's that keeps us clean. Recognize the divine in others. Not just dealing with our own little bubble, but realizing that we're part of a larger world and recognizing the promptings of the heart. That's what keeps us clean. It is easy to judge as we look out into the world and condemn, to pass sentence on those who we think are going astray. Our role is to see that all have the divine spark within them and to understand that there is a process involved. That's not to say that we don't act. It might be on a small scale, it might be just biting our tongue when we think someone's talking nonsense. Or it might be on a larger scale, being in the public eye and trying to create understanding so that people realize their own role in stewarding the resources that belong to us all. We are all as rich as the richest person in the world, and we're all as poor as the poorest person in the world. We just need to realize it and see the implications of that for ourselves and for those we share the world with. We're stewards, not owners. That realization could have transformed the understanding of the son that went away, of the citizens who used him, and the older brother that envied him. It is this understanding that we all share a common wealth that we need to be promoting, that we're not separate, but we're here to look after what we have inherited from the bounty of the universe. We look after it for the next generation. We pass on our civilization for the next generation. That's why we're here, to be stewards of the bounty, and not to realize, and to not realize that it is to be ignorant. Not realizing that is to be ignorant of the understanding. When you don't realize that you are there to steward the bounty that's before you, your understanding is one of ignorance. It is a lack of understanding that creates the selfishness. And that understanding of the bounty and our stewardship, that is what needs to be realized, that we're all existing within this commonwealth, that we need to look after, each of us, the other. That understanding eventually will be realized. It's just a question of when. And really, it's also a question of whether or not we can do it in time. Because we are now facing a clock. And the clock is a clock of the climate. The clock is a clock of the selfishness of people, whether that will overpower us or not. And we don't know the answer to that question. We can know, though, it's a function of ignorance. And knowing that, knowing it's not about evil or badness, but about ignorance, gives us a path forward. It shows that the way forward is a way of education. It's a way of creating that understanding so that we're all aware that we have something, a commonwealth to look after and to pass on to the next generation if we can. So we always have an opportunity for someone to make a contribution, to disagree with what's been said, to ask a question, share an experience, or whatever it is. And just wonder if anybody would like to make a contribution. I'm channeling something. Something's coming through. Did you hear that? Good. Okay, well, thank you for that lovely, beautiful music. Sometimes we don't have a thing, so. I'd
like to say something.
Of course you can, Lydia. That's very nice. Oh, no, Lydia, that's great.
Hi, everyone. This morning I was listening to an audiobook. I'll have to, it was about the divine feminine, the Roseline royalty, and it was talking about the Polynesian culture. I just got done with a performance at the Wheeler with Aspen, Polynesia. I was talking about the elemental stewardship of the oceans and the water and water ceremony, and I felt compelled to speak about that because in terms of our climate and the elemental energy towards protecting our oceans and our environment and, you know, our bodies, which is structured water and could be more structured in that way. I know that visualization is key to protecting our environment. And so it's the micro to the macro. And the Polynesian culture is really rich in protecting the water element and the movement in the divine feminine in the flow state. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I've been reading and thinking myself about how, we want to own water. We want to own minerals. We want to even own the air. And there's this concept that everything can be owned nowadays, rather than everything can be looked after. And there's a big shift, really, in that, I think. So thank you. I really appreciate you. It's within the Native American culture, that whole thing, Native American Indian. I'm reading Sherry Mitchell's book, and she talks a lot about this. Yeah. Camille, yes.
Michelle and Barack Obama have made produced a film. It's on Netflix. It's a documentary about the ocean's current that moves around the world. And if you haven't seen it, it's fabulous.
Thank you very much, Camille.
It's called The Ocean.
Thank you. Bill.
I'm not sure how spiritual this is, but I was distracted during the last song by a lump in my pocket, and so I reached in, and there's 2 tickets to Judy Collins from the Wheeler Opera House, and that song, is most identified with her, and I just thought, well, that's kind of strange.
We all better check our pockets to see whether or not we've got tickets in our... I've got something in my pocket. What is it? Oh, no, it's not. Good. Thank you for that. That's Judy Collins, yeah. She's on at the Wheeler this week. Very good. It was a lovely song she was. Anybody else? Good. Thank you. Yes, yeah, you please do. Yeah, please. Leslie. Nice to have you with us, Leslie.
Hi, thank you, and thank you for what you shared. Sometimes I feel like the thing that could come before you speak is what happens when I say this. Because I feel like I just go so deep. And Heather talking about who do you relate to. And I really felt it authentically relating to all of them, especially the son that was angry at his father. And then I went into this place of sometimes my initial reaction to somebody having more or somebody making me angry is that I think I'm at the point of awareness where I notice that I have jealousy, and I have a choice right there to drop it. And then I felt authenticity started coming up. Like, I want to be so real. I want to really have the experience that you're speaking about. And I think I have in glimpses.
Yeah.
And sometimes big glimpses. And I think I'm just grateful for the awareness right now. And I think there's a mantra that the words are so hum. I think it means you are that. And that was just what spoke to me right now. You are that. And such a curiosity about that's our job. Right now, we can change things just being that. And you really helped me. It brings it out in me what you expressed today. So thank you.
Thank you. And I want to say, you think, well, how do I do that? How do I not go with the envy and anger and things like that? And a lot of it is about preparation. That's why we do our meditation. That's why we read the scriptures. That's why we sit with the divine quietly in a practice. And that word really describes it, your spiritual practice, practicing doing it. And I really want to, just particularly in this period of Lent, really encourage you to practice. And I've been having some really good interviews, Lenten interviews with people who've come along and chatted with me about their spiritual lives and stuff like that over this period of time. And so if you want to come along and have a chat about your particular spiritual life, do give me a call, tap me on the shoulder, we can arrange something. That's not to say that after Easter I'm saying, right, I'm not seeing anybody now. But it is an opportunity. No, it's Lent's finished now. I'm not seeing you anymore. But it does give us an opportunity to look. And so if you do want to come along and have a chat about your spiritual life, please feel free to do that. Do you want to say something?
I just wanted to say, it's interesting to think that every single person in the world, that we were all handed either a worldview of scarcity or a worldview of abundance. And that really helps me anyway. I mean, to see everybody in that, with that understanding, helps me to see with compassion that if I think someone's being mean and stingy, just to think where that comes from in their life. And, I just think we need to practice seeing each other with compassion, as you were saying, to really see the best in each other, to see the divine image in each other, and to know that we are really the products of our childhoods, and we're working at it, and we need to work at it, and we need to put the conscious effort in, as you were saying, which is so beautiful.
And it's a process. We don't have to be cross with ourselves because we're not solving the world's problems immediately, but we just engage in what we can engage with, I think, as well. And that includes our worldview of how we see people, condemn them or not.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Good. Well, thank you very much. We have, again this week, Maureen, did you want to quickly say something? You're going to need the microphone. There's no point in shouting because no one can hear you in things. So quickly, Maureen, and then we will you have to use the microphone because these poor people who are on the thing. Yeah, go ahead.
No, this whole conversation just made me reflect on a book that was very powerful for me personally, called The Soul of Money, written by Lynn Twist. And she talks about, she was trying to raise money for a National Hunger Foundation, she's a well-known philanthropist, so forth. Whether she was talking to a single mother with 3 kids trying to raise them or a very wealthy business person, everybody said, do I have enough? And, she would, she just talked about how one man gave some money, but he gave it really belligerently. So she just gave it back to him because she said, it's not in your heart. And 3 years later, he came back to her with this beautiful check and said, I get it now. But I think it is a message, however this is shouting, each of us. It's just the way you've talked about it, what is enough to us? And compassion and generosity. It was a book that really gave me some great insights, The Soul of Money.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.